Good evening, everyone. I wanted to bring you a couple of more helpful guides for you when you are out doing your foraging, when you're learning about your wild plants to incorporate into your diet and your herbal medicine. Now, I recommend highly all of the Petersons guides. Those are, if you read about the man that started those, he's a fascinating man and he traveled all over the world. But his guides are some of the best and clearest that you can find. Everything from just IDing a plant to explaining what the usages are for the plant. So any of the Peterson guides, and of course you can get them at Amazon. Now, the other thing that I had gotten, and it's a good way to test yourself, and it's easy to carry as well, and that's these little cards. It's a plant identification card game called Wild and Free, and then this one is called Wild Cards, and it actually has a little hole in the top, and you can put a little chain through that and carry those with you. Now, on these cards, you have a photo for identification, and then you turn it on the back, and it gives you what the name is, the description, and whether it's edible and what parts are edible. So I got those on Amazon, and so I recommend those for you guys to use to learn to identify your plants, because I'm going to touch on this real quick, and I'm planning on making a longer video about it later. There's this idea that exotic herbs or exotic plants that you can get across the world or in another country, and that they're somehow better. But one of the things that I have learned in observing plant natures and people using plants for medicine is that usually what you need is right outside your door or within close proximity to you. And I'm going to tell you about a plant, and I'm not going to be able to remember what the name of it is, but I tried it when I was out in Arizona, and I highly recommend a channel called Daniel Lionheart. Now, he is he's a multifaceted man, and he lives in Arizona, and he travels through the desert, and he shows how to survive, and he doesn't carry food with him because he shows how the food that you need is right there. He typically will just go down a road and turn off and get out of his car and just start walking, and then say, okay, this plant is for this plant is for that. Well, when I was preparing to go to Arizona, he did an episode where there is a plant, and it's a very common tree/bush plant. It has little white blooms on it. Well, when you ingest it, it lowers your core body temperature. Now, God put that in the middle of a desert so that the native people would not get too hot. They knew to use that plant to lower their core body temperature. And the place where I have my land is in Apache territory, between the Chiricahua Mountains and the Dragoon Mountains. And it is where the Apache roamed, and they typically would travel at night, but during the day they would need to know what to do to lower their core body temperature, because water is not plentiful in the desert. So that's what I mean when I say to learn what is around you what is in your immediate surroundings, and then learn what those things are good for. When I was very poor, one of the things that I started learning was the almighty dandelion, that you can use the leaves and the blooms and the roots and then the clover and then the violets. And if there were a hard time, if there were a time that you could not get to a store, you could go and forage out of your own yard, because we know dandelions grow everywhere, violets grow everywhere. They're just plentiful. And when I say these things, you know, now that I have people who are outside of America following me, when I say these things, I know that you have those kinds of plants in your area as well. There are these plants that people consider invasive weeds. Well, take a look at those, investigate them, see what properties that they have, because more than likely they are high in nutrition and high in medicinal value. So we need to learn how to identify what is in our immediate area, and then learn how to utilize that for our nutrition, our healing, our medicine, because that's why it's put there. That is why it's put there. You know, if you didn't subsist on anything but, you know, just what's in a typical American yard, you know, the dandelions, the clover, the sorrel, the yellow dock, you know, those things that people pay tons of money to remove from their yards, well, those things are high nutrition and high medicine. So I want you to think in terms of that, to learn what is around you and use what is around you, because that is in fact what you should be using. And the other part of that is, out of those plants, which of the plants have the most multifaceted usages? Okay. Anyway, so for example, dandelion is high on my list, and so is plantain, the plantago, because not only can you ingest it and it's high nutrition and high medicine, but you can use it topically. It has so many good benefits, and like, you know, I've shown you in so many of the wild plant videos, is that almost all of them are antioxidant, antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. You know, these are powerhouse of nutrition and healing. And then as I learned these other words, yes, I'm still on sesquiterpenes. You know, that is a characteristic of plants that oxygenates your blood, so that increases healing. And this is found in these wild plants. So take a look at what is around you and in your area, because that's what you need to be concentrating on. And so until our next video, remember to eat the wild things. Goodbye.